know this because I've lived it. From the moment I set foot in Manhattan, I was home. The rhythm of the city just felt right. I was already accustomed to a rise-and-grind lifestyle, ready to balance rigorous academic demands with my creative passions. Growing up, I was a singer, studying opera and musical theater at the Cleveland School of the Arts. I had always excelled in my classes, even skipping the 5th grade, thanks to my curious mind and unending desire to please my parents. Achievement meant a lot in my family, especially to my father, a Jamaican immigrant who worked as a middle school janitor. My mom was an administrative assistant in a hospital, raising my brothers and me largely on her own, because my parents were never married. My twin brother and I shuffled back and forth between our parents' homes, the week at our mom's and the weekend at our dad's. My baby brother has a different father, whom he visited separately. Studying hard and being on stage gave me an identity: the performer and the risk-taker. That helped me distinguish myself from my shyer, more reserved siblings. But life in the spotlight definitely created some tension between my peers and me. In middle school, I was bullied for my appearance. I was tall and thin with glasses, by a guy who, 15 years later, asked me out on Facebook. One girl in particular, a best friend who was anything but, know the type? Loved to talk about her designer clothes and would ask me pointedly about mine. I owned none. My father felt fancy labels were wasteful since, he reasoned, you could buy the same quality item, minus the brand name, for a fraction of the cost. In high school, I was targeted for having an operatic voice and not a church voice. In college, a sorority sister relentlessly made fun of me for deciding to shave my head and later, in colder weather, for experimenting with headscarves similar to the hijabs worn by Muslim women. Insecure as all of this made me, I always felt a deep urge to challenge norms with my look. Being creative with my style, utilizing whatever I had in my closet, was a major source of joy for me. It still is. Good grades and cheering audiences were external affirmations that I belonged where I was, and that I wasn't as out of place as my bullies would have me believe. So, when I started grad school at Columbia, I followed my trusty formula. I studied hard, worked hard, and said yes to every modeling gig that came my way. In my downtime, I designed and handmade dramatic pearl and feather jewelry and christened my line Optical Illusion, #truth. I made some fierce new friends, and they modeled my creations for promotional photos. I also volunteered at the Barnard Columbia Rape Crisis Anti-Violence Support Center. It was work that felt like a calling, and it would become meaningful in a way I could not have foreseen. I was what my professors might call an ambitious self-starter. Being one of only a handful of Black students in my program, and from a lower middle-class background, I felt I had everything to prove. I was motivated, focused, and firing on all cylinders. I enthusiastically approached several professors for guidance, pitching this idea I had to practice fashion psychology, hoping they could help me find a job. But the field, as far as I could tell at the time, didn't seem to exist. One professor acknowledged that my resume seemed to be a 50-50 split, with half my experience rooted in the world of fashion and the other half in the world of Freud. She urged me to seek an entry-level position assisting a renowned celebrity stylist. The stylist, however, had an infamous reputation for tearing down clients before building them back up with a makeover. Her approach just didn't sit right with me. Nor did it seem forward-thinking, given the messages of self-acceptance, body positivity, and inclusivity that were beginning to bubble up in pop culture. Though